topic that if I were going to have to get in front of a group and talk about, this is it, partly because it's not being talked about. And I feel like it's very important, and so I'm happy to be up here this evening and talking about transition and maintenance. To me, it's the perfect topic regardless of where you are on the program. If you are looking at this as a possible health program, a way to lose weight, reach health goals, this is important information for you to have. To me, this is going to give information about why the program is different from other programs. And then if you are just getting started on the program, I think that there's some things that I'll share through this process that you'll see that you can already be doing now to prepare yourself for when you do get to transition and then, long-term into maintenance. And then also, if you're almost at transition to maintenance, of course, you might have some very specific questions about what the process actually looks like. And you may have a little bit of backtracking to do if you weren't making all those connections in the beginning, very much like what Molly was talking about. And so using some different words than Molly, I kind of explain it, I think, very similarly to the way that you do. I think y'all have heard this, and Janet gave me credit for using the training wheels terminology, but I have to tell you, I rarely have an original thought. So, it was probably somebody in this room that I stole it from, so I want to just stand up here publicly and kind of, take the credit for that. But thank you, Janet. So, yeah, I look at the 5-in-1 program as putting the training wheels on healthy eating. Just like what Molly was saying, I call it mimicking. So right now we're using the 5-in-1 to practice the habits of health, and ultimately we're going to mimic what we learned during the 5-in-1 with mostly whole foods. And so that's, to me, what makes this program extremely unique. But it all really does start with, and what each of us have to do if that is our goal, and it's not just to utilize a diet program to get to a certain size clothing, is that we really do, if we're going to apply what I'm going to speak about today, we really have to make a fundamental choice to be healthy. And so I hope that is what everyone in this room wants for themselves and is wanting to share with other people. And so that's why I like to talk about this, because that's what I'm passionate about. I love what Dan Bell got up and said, how he is fiercely proud to be a health coach, because that's how I feel about it. And so it's very important to me that it's about getting healthy, because I'm fiercely proud about sharing health with other people. And so anyway, I can almost get choked up just saying it. I'm fiercely proud to be a health coach. So what I refer to with our program, oftentimes I'm not specifically talking about Medifast 5-in-1 or even Take Shape for Life when I first start explaining the program to someone, and I refer to it as a mindful balanced eating program. I may have stole that from one of you too. I don't know. And then I love this to me is the tagline that I really have clung to, and that is that we're creating health rather than reacting to disease. Most of you have seen the B-SLIM acronym. Dr. Anderson created that as a way to help us remember the characteristics, the habits that people who have lost weight and have kept it off have. It wasn't a research done by Take Shape for Life. It was done by the National Weight Registry, and it is, I think, people who've lost over 60 pounds and have kept it off for 5 years. And so what he's done is he's created this acronym. So these are the habits of people who are keeping their weight off, the common characteristics. And if you look at these, you're going to see right away that these are the habits that we're putting in place immediately when someone is starting 5-in-1. And we'll come back to that. I'm not going to go through and read them all. But let's just very quickly talk about some of the resources, because as Renee kind of introduced some of this, and just saying that a lot of people feel like this is not a topic that's being talked about. They feel a little bit uncertain even themselves. Sharing the information, it's here, guys. I mean, it's in every piece of stuff that we have. We've got the information. So your clients, too, are going to be able to find it really wherever they go. And hopefully, if they're reading all the way through the Quick Start Guide when they first get it, before they're getting started on the program, they're going to already have been introduced to, the actual process of the transition. I think the other things that I've put on, I have to say, this is one of our newer publications, And I really do like this. This is great. The maintenance guide. It is the new maintenance guide. And just reading through this, I mean, again, if you've got someone that's coming to you about the program that has lots of questions, I mean, they're wanting the information. I understand sometimes we're giving too much information and people don't want all the details, but some people you can tell by the questions that they're asking, that they want to know how this program compares, why this is about getting healthy, how is this, you know, they are looking for something that's not a diet. And I think this right here is going to give them those answers, just like this information is going to. So I think that, you know, just knowing where it is, and we could make a list of these even and provide them to a client when they're getting ready to transition, so they know specifically where am I going to go in my books. And I think maybe Lesson 9 is kind of an introduction to that process as well. So.
How do you like the maintenance guide, the new one, compared to the transition guide?
I like it for the big picture kind of concept,
okay.
And it gets into some of the details, and I've got some of the charts in here that are right out of here that I think are useful as well. And I think that the transition and maintenance still kind of does serve a purpose, because it goes into a little bit more detail, I think, of the actual step-by-step of the transition. So, and then just remind people too, we've got to have some health maintenance calls on Wednesday nights. We can listen to them recorded, again, trying to plug people into that bio network. And I think that's a great one too, that they don't need to wait till they're starting transition to start listening to that. You know, by no means. So.
Just to that, I had a client who listened to that Habits of Health maintenance call, and she says, and she hasn't been real consistent on the program, and she goes, this person lost 120 pounds in like 6 months. I could have been that far.
Yeah.
You know, so it was good for her to see where she could have been if she wasn't playing around. So
right.
It was good. And she, you know.
Yeah. No, I think we probably all have heard that. So one of the things, again, that I refer to the Phase 1, 5 and 1 program, the weight loss phase of the program, is that's where we're regaining control of our health. And again, I have this, you know, I use the blood sugar, like everybody that spoke before me referenced the blood sugar. So we come back to this. This is a chart that I really like, and I feel like it explains the different phases of the program. It's kind of where we're starting. This is where we're regaining control. And this is where we want to ultimately end up. We know that if we have chronically high insulin levels, that it's correlated with many of the lifestyle diseases. We know that we want to get that down to a moderate level. And what we know with the 5 and 1 is, again, we put the training wheels on that. We're creating that perfect environment for weight loss, but also to reduce inflammation and reduce our risk for lifestyle diseases. But we definitely want to do that long term. And, you know, as people will ask before they're starting the program, does this mean I have to eat these foods, you know, for the rest of my life? What we want to explain to them is that they're going to mimic the 5 and 1, and they're going to accomplish the same thing with Whole Foods and by following the pattern of eating that they've developed during the 5 and 1. So the first phase on the program, I would recommend for my clients that they're doing the self-assessment, Chapter 5, out of Dr. Anderson's book, either straight from the book or the online version. And then I'm also working with them to have them develop a structural attention chart. And it's really, to me, the process of going to, I mean, it's very different for each one of us as far as how hands-on we're going to be working with someone. I think it's very different for each client. I do want to say that in a room amongst health coaches, that I'm going to speak as if I've got the most coachable client out there.
Hello.
Yeah. And so I've already, you know, during Phase 1 of the program, we're working on the structural attention chart. What I'm going to do when I have that very next conversation with them is they're asking me and they're kind of not really sure what their action steps are, I'm going to guide them through the process of recognizing that they know what their current reality is if they've done the assessment. They know that what they want in a broad sense, if they haven't been able to develop it into something more kind of their vision of what life is going to be like at a healthy weight is, but they do know that they want to get to a healthy weight, and that there are action steps that they're going to take to get there. On day one of the program, they put those action steps in place, and that's the Be Slim lifestyle that's been proven to keep the weight off. So what we don't need on here is that I'm going to eat 5 MetaFast meals a day. I'm going to, eat, from page 4 or 5 from the Quick Start Guide. But what we're looking for are those habits. And what I'm going to point out to them is recognizing that they can substitute healthy weight with mindful, balanced eating. And if they've made a fundamental choice to get healthy and they are really serious about that, then they can just plug that right in. Mindful, balanced eating, and this structural tension chart is not going to change when they get to transition to maintenance. They're going to continue the same habits, and so the only thing that's going to be different is the food that they're going to eat. And they don't have to do it at such a low calorie level, so helping them understand that yes, they're going to be able to maintain the weight because they don't have to do it. They're no longer creating the calorie gap, but they're still going to be focused on the balanced blood sugar. So I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything here. I think the other thing that I'd like to point out to people is that to integrate into their family. Their Lean and Green meal is something that they can definitely share with their family. I even go so far as oftentimes, I know for some people there's a limited amount of things on the Lean and Green list that they like up front, and they're getting used to that. They're getting used to preparing things. But an example of treating kind of the whole process of not being on a diet is understanding that they're eating healthy foods that people around them enjoy too, sharing that with them. So not preparing themselves a separate meal from their family all the time. An example would be, the dad's on the program and everybody else is eating one thing and he's eating a salad with grilled chicken every single night. And so my question for him would be, is that what you're going to do for the rest of your life? And so, let's start integrating what you're doing with the rest of the family. We can't make everybody eat a certain way, but there's certainly a lot of foods on pages 4 and 5 that we can all enjoy. And then, and I think our focus on that we're creating something that we want. That we are looking at, again, we look at the structural tension chart. We know what our desired outcome is, not so much about what we're avoiding, but what it is that we want, and do we want it for the people around us? And if the answer to that is yes, then I think that that also can be a way of understanding that if we want it for the people around us, let's act like it's something that we want for ourselves. And so if we're in a group of people and everybody else is having cake and ice cream, and you are determined that you're sticking with your plan, then don't say I can't have cake and ice cream, I'm on a diet, even don't say I'm on a program. Because the truth of the matter is no one has taken that personal freedom away from you. It's a choice that you've made. It's a choice that's important to you because you know what it is that you're going for and what it is that you want. And if the people around you see you focusing on what it is that you can't have, then it's certainly not something that they're going to want for themselves. So again, just being an advocate for health in your own life, but also being an advocate for health in the lives of the people around you that you care about. I would say the other thing, when you're in the first phase of the program that will really help you long term is understanding why it is that the 5 and 1 is working. That's again why I like for people to understand about the blood sugar chart. I want them to understand what it is about the 5 and 1 so that when they're asking what's in the food, that would be an opportunity to explain to them about the 1-to-1 ratio between protein and carbohydrates, and then even give them some examples of the way I would eat in maintenance by combining my protein and carbohydrates. And so that they're making that connection. I think one of the things, and we've probably all experienced this, is somebody that does kind of move away from the program without talking to you and telling you that, without necessarily going through transition, but for them to understand those little things will help them. Hopefully, if they do move away from the program, maybe they're going to remember that we're combining protein and carbohydrates and that we're looking at balancing blood sugar and those kinds of things so that they'll know how to